Happy 4th of July, everyone, from the vetted team here. Just wanted to shout out and say I hope you're having a great time today with your family, your friends, barbecuing. You're going to see some fireworks. Please enjoy the day. I know I am. So, because of that, and we cover UFOs here, I thought I would cover one of the most prolific UFO cases in the entire world, Roswell, right? And every country kind of has their own Roswell, as it's called, right? But Roswell is probably the most famous UFO case in the world. You know, started the whole movement, if you will. Now, there were things before that, of course, and we've learned to, or we've come to find out that there is, you know, who knows how far it goes back. But regardless of that, I've got a special interview that I wanted to show in regards to Roswell that I found absolutely fascinating. I've seen it many times, but thought I would share it. Maybe some of you have seen it. Maybe some of you haven't. But let's dive into it. If you're new to the channel, y'all, and you like content like this, please hit that subscribe button. I put our new video every day, 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. I do not miss a day, y'all. And please hit that like button, vetters. That really helps out the videos, okay? So thank y'all so much for the support there. And, of course, comment down below. What do you think of this interview with Glenn Davis? Let's go. Or sorry, Glenn Dennis. Glenn Davis. Listen to me. All right, so let me start. Here's the guy, right? Who's this guy? Who's this guy? This was recorded on November 19th, 1990. I'm going to read a little bit of this. Okay, this comes from the U.S. National Archives. That's right. That's what makes this very interesting. You can see here who created it, everything. Again, I got a link in the description. You can go watch the full interview, but I'm only going to play a clip of it. But basically, this guy sort of, you know, worked at a funeral home, owned a funeral home, and was contacted about caskets, right? And then it turns out these were caskets for potentially aliens. Why would aliens need caskets? I don't know. But this guy's interview is quite fascinating. This gentleman in particular is quite fascinating. He just seems very, you know, good old boy. And I really enjoy it. So let's just get it going. Right here, he's going to talk about the bodies. All right? That's right. The bodies. Again, these are bodies purportedly from Roswell. Let's go, y'all.
Did she express an opinion as to what she thought these beings were? Did she think they came with the?
Well, the only remark that she ever made was that they definitely weren't humans as we know humans, but they could be from another planet. Or the doctors were explaining this, that they couldn't be from our planet. They had to be an alien, or had to be something else, but not in our planet.
She had a phrase she used to describe how they looked to her. You remember that? You were telling me? Like little black Chinamen?
Well, she said that, well, of course they were, you know, first thing she said they were black. They were just as black as they could be, but probably laying out in the elements in July in Roswell with 105 to 110 temperature every day and 80 degrees or so at night. I mean, that wouldn't be uncommon, because we picked up a lot of sheep herders of people that have been found dead that's laying in the desert, you know, for days and bitten by rattlesnakes or whatever. And they do turn, you know, as black as they can. And I know exactly what they were talking about, because, with the smell and the odor being so drastic, because this is a very unpleasant situation, you know. And
let's talk about their eyes. How did she describe their eyes?
Well, she said that, of course, their eyes were set back into the skull. Oh, and it was a remarkable, I thought it was interesting also that she said their skulls, the doctor said their skull bone structure wasn't like ours. It wasn't actually a bone. It was probably a real heavy cartilage. It looked more or less like a newborn baby. The skull was very pliable. You could mash on the skull and it would, you know, it would give. And so the bone structure, it wasn't, bones not like our bones, it was our skull and everything.
What about the bones in the hands and arms?
Said very fine, very delicate. The arm bones, like the radial and the ulnar and in the arm, that was so fine that he doubted if they could lift. She said they doubt if anyone at that size and the arms at that could lift 50 pounds on the earth or anywhere else. They doubted they had that strength. But she said the one that hadn't been mutilated to a great extent, it reminded him of a real small ancient Chinese person, no hair at all, and very, very delicate skin. In fact, he said the skin would look like they could almost see through it, almost transparent.
Why don't you give me a paragraph on the ears and the nostrils?
Well, the ears, like I think I stated to you, that the ears, there was a couple of small orifices, one on top of the other, with two little lobe flaps, one over the other. They didn't really know if they had any significance, how they worked or what. They didn't go into that. The nose was only a couple of very small orifices, holes right there, just above the lip line. But it had, there wasn't anything covering it. And it was just like two small indentations there, and that was it. Said it was very unusual.
Does anyone else, Don, Kel, do you have anything that you think
You're talking about the hands. The hands.
Yeah.
Describe the hands.
The hands, well, there was one hand. There was one hand that evidently wasn't attached to the arm. And she said that where she got sick and left the room was that this doctor had the long forceps and picked the hand up and turned it over. And that's when they noticed that there wasn't any thumb. None of the bodies had any thumbs or anything. They were just long, very fine, very delicate fingers, no fingernails. But right at the tip of each finger, it looked like there was a pad. And in this pad, it looked like it might have had very small they were like little suction cups, very minute suction cups. The doctors, that's the way he explained it, that was looking at it.
Let's have tapes right now. Okay.
We need to get
Wow.
the arm as
Okay.
well.
Okay, yes,
Which
the arm.
goes with that.
We need to go about the arm.
Really?
In the magazine we publish, and with the pads at the tips of the fingers.
Maybe you can get it. Can you get a copy of them?
I can send you a copy, I'd be happy to.
It's amazing.
It all fits together. That's the
And they
thing.
would
It
not
just
have
fits
known
together.
about
Obviously, they wouldn't know about your information.
Yeah, well, see, I've never
vice versa.
I've never discussed this with anyone. My father was the only person I really ever discussed this. I didn't discuss it at the funeral home or anything else. I never discussed it with any of my family, period. I never have until I met Stan Freeman 2 years ago. That's the first time I ever discussed it.
Would you have an interest in some dubs of testimony that we get from other people here? I'd be happy to.
Oh, I'd
send it
love
you.
to, yeah, but I'd love to. I'd like to have a tape of mine also, if you
Sure,
don't.
absolutely. Of course
you
we can
know.
do that.
Maybe we can send you two, one for each hand. Or
My,
something.
my daughter said if I want a tape of this and I want to keep it, and I want it in the family. But
We'll make you up.
yeah, I would love to, whatever. If you guys feel comfortable, I'd love to, have some tapes of whatever,
Absolutely.
I
We've
would.
got quite a few that we could probably run off. What
Well,
do you have? VHS or Beta machine? Tape?
I'll see to it that we get some dubs of other people's interviews.
I just go to Kmart or wherever and buy the.
I think we have the tape going now. Why don't we start
Kmart?
with the, how they do
Well,
this?
he talked about the hand, so for continuity, it might be good to go to the
Oh,
arm.
this will all be edited anyway, but we can start wherever you like. You want to go with that? Let's start with the arms. Okay.
Fun side note, I worked at Kmart in high school in the women's clothes department. That's right. That's where they stuck me. Honestly, one of the most fun jobs I ever had. Fun fact, worked there like 1 year. Again, high school. Shout out to Kmart.
Anytime.
Oh, forget the camera.
Seeing if he was ready.
It's not there.
Yeah,
It's not there.
that's all right.
Honestly, I love these parts of interviews. The beginning before it starts, maybe the in-betweens or the end, right? When people are relaxed and they don't think it's like part of the thing. I like those moments. You get to learn a lot about people in those moments, in my opinion, right? So I like hearing all these other little details, right? Like he's wanting tapes of this interview to keep in his family, right? And I get that, right? And clearly this got out. You know what I mean?
But you were asking me to describe the arms, and this was another thing that the lieutenant brought out, that it was very the difference between theirs and ours, from the wrist to the first joint here, that it was probably 1.5 times longer than the top part up here. It was very odd looking. It was very odd, she said. And the very small arms, very small.
Bone structure?
Bone structure, of course I asked her about the bones because we were talking about the wrist bones and everything, and she said it was very similar to ours, but the bones were so small that their bones probably wasn't in the arms, wasn't any larger than my finger.
Wow.
So,
Okay, now give me 2 or 3 sentences on how they were dressed. If they were dressed.
we never mentioned it,
Is that right?
never talked about the dress.
Did she say anything about sex, or was she able to determine?
She said she was so sick and everything that never even entered her mind. So that was it.
I guess not.
No way to determine the sex of the beings then.
Well, it wasn't discussed.
Hang on a second. I think he thought sex the other way there for a second. Am I wrong? Well, she was so tired. I don't think that was on her mind. Wait a second. I don't think I noticed that in this interview before. I've seen it a couple times, but the last time I watched it to prepare for this, I kind of had it on in the background. I was just listening, so I think I missed that. But, right, am I wrong there? Let me... It's funny.
She said she was so sick and everything that never even entered her mind. So that was it.
She was so sick. Maybe I'm misinterpreting, but it sounds like, whatever. You know, it doesn't matter. Let's
No
continue.
way to determine the sex of the beings then.
Well, it wasn't discussed with her. It probably was, but like she said, I was so ill and so horrified that I don't, she said.
Okay, so I got that wrong. That's not what he was talking about.
She sat up all night, and she knew I was going to be real concerned, knew I was going to be on what happened. She knew that I got in trouble, probably. And she drew that, she sat up and made little notes on the back of these little prescription pads. And that's what, she had her notes made out, and that's what we discussed, particularly what she had.
I was very interested in that you had kept so many records of the incident and pertaining to everything that you knew regarding the UFO correction. And you kept them in the, there at Ballard's, and then later they disappeared. Yeah. Could you give us a
Well, I was really in charge of all the military contracts. I did all the bids and everything and really took care of all the contracts myself. And that was one of my duties at the funeral home, to take care of the military. And I had a file on everything that ever happened at Walker Air Base, like Bob Hope and some of the big orchestras, and everybody'd come and have the big parties and everything in the hangars. I attended, but I would also have pictures and everything. I had a personal file that I kept, and I kept everything in this file that pertained that I attended or whatever. And this is where I put the diagrams and the notes that she gave me was in my personal file. Well, then the Ballard Funeral Home sold at a later date, several years later, that it sold. And the people that bought the funeral home, these were files they were the old files that they kept in the basement down in the furnace room. And they had I had all the military files together in one filing cabinet. Everything had happened at the base and everything. We also had the contract at Fort Sumner Air Base. They had a glider base there, and also fighter pilot training there, and the P-47s and 51s and so on. And so I had all the files. Everything was, one filing cabinet was strictly all military. And that's where I had all this filed away. I had all this filed away. I even had the newspaper that Walter Haught, the headlines and all this. The next day I had all that in his files.
And what interests me is that out of all these files, on
Yeah.
all these different topics, only one was missing when you went to look for it, and that was the one pertaining to this.
Yeah.
Can you review that for us?
Well, no, there were some of the other files were missing also, not just my own file, but my file was in the same. That, yeah, most all of my file was gone. But there was also some files. They had really actually had destroyed most of the files that were pertaining after certain years. They just gotten rid of them, and they told. The manager of the funeral home, that's the manager there, named Raymond Otero, also told me that he knew my file was there. Joe Lucas, that was the manager at that time, knew my files were there. And he and I'd had some personal problems, and he said, get rid of his damn files. We don't want anything that remind us of him. And that's where the files went, really.
So that's interesting. A personal squabble led to a guy throwing away, right, this guy's, secret UFO file, right, or alien body file, right, which I get, right? So he ran this funeral home. He keeps sort of a personal file of different things he attends or is a part of that maybe is in an unofficial capacity. Interesting. So I don't know. What do y'all think? I'm going to put a link in the description. Again, go check out the full interview. It's quite fascinating. This guy's fascinating. And the Roswell case is fascinating. Right? And don't forget, I am going to Roswell at the end of the month, maybe beginning of August, to go look into this, because there's some new developments about Roswell that are going to be coming out, over the next month to 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, right? New material. That's all I'll say. New material. New UFO material from Roswell is supposed to be released. I don't know. Right? All right, guys. See you on tomorrow's video. Remember, every day's a gift, y'all. See you tomorrow.